The modes. Let me just say right off the bat, this video is not for players who are about to learn about the modes. It's not a step-by-step how-to or an explanation of it. This is for players who have already began the journey embarking on learning about the modes and have now found themselves to be thoroughly confused. I find that beginner players, or those who are beginning their mode journey, they're not confused yet. Oftentimes this is due to the way that the modes are traditionally taught, and we're going to unravel that one bit at a time. So here we go. Before we dig in, my discussion of the modes actually began in the previous video, which you can see linked here. I definitely recommend checking that out first, as it will contain all the shapes that you're going to need in order to put all this stuff to the fretboard and have it make sense. So check that video out, and it'll also be in the description below. As hinted at in that previous video, the modes are often taught in a way that promotes confusion, even if it's not intended. Think of it this way. You learn 7 shapes. Each shape is given a mode name by your teacher or instructional resource that you found online, and you get the impression that that's all it is. This shape is this mode, and this shape is this mode, and on and on and on. And then you go to actually use them or apply them, and you hit a wall almost instantly. That's what we're trying to fix this time. My goal is to get you to see the 7 shapes as 7 members of a bigger family. This is going to allow you to use any of the 7 shapes that you want at any given time to reflect the mode that you need to be playing. The shapes that I presented in the previous video are just one of several ways that you can lay the fretboard out in terms of the modes, and they're not necessarily ones that I absolutely insist you use. Any of the shape forms or methods that your teacher or whatever you learned on the internet are fine. The shapes themselves are not the problem. So by all means, whatever shape system, scale pattern system you're already familiar with, keep it. It's not about the shapes themselves. So I just wanted to mention that before we dig in. Let's begin by laying out a practical example. Let's say you wanted to utilize the F Lydian mode. F Lydian is the 4th mode of the C major scale and is often shown starting on F. Seems logical. Now notice I had the 2-note string in this particular shape. If you want the straight 3-note per string version, that's fine too. It doesn't matter. The idea here is that chances are you have been told that that shape is Lydian. Not incorrect. It is, in fact, F Lydian. But guess what? It's also F Lydian here. Here. Like all over the fretboard. Every shape of C major, any of the 7 family members, as I like to call them, of C major, is also F Lydian. Now, the big mental block here comes from the fact that the modes are often taught as a shape with a name. And, Lydian, Mixolydian, this shape is Aeolian, and on and on and on. And again, it's not wrong information, it's just extremely limiting and incomplete. So, let's see how this works. I'm going to play F Lydian in its traditional form, the way everyone learns it, to a backing track, and we just want to get a sense of the mood. We want to get a sense of the tonality and the overall feel that this mode produces. Here we go. You might notice that it's got a very pleasant, kind of happy sound, but a little exotic, maybe a little quirky. Those are the words that come to mind for me. And I highly recommend that you come up with your own descriptors for any given mode. Each one of them is going to have a different impression that it will suggest to you. But the fact is that That shape over the F chord, which you just heard, produces that sound. That is to say that most players feel that when they need the F Lydian sound, they must jump right to that shape to get it. Well, check this out. That was shape 5. That is often called G Mixolydian. Now, you can imagine Mixolydian is going to have a different sound, a different feel, a different tonality than any of the other modes, and it does. But here's the thing, over the F chord, that shape is going to give you the same sound as the previous shape. Let's try another one. Shape 6. Noticing a pattern? Same general tonality. Happy sounding, a little quirky, maybe a little exotic. The fact is that the shape itself is not the important thing. And even more importantly, the first note, the lowest note of the shape, is not the important thing. It does not matter which of the 7 shapes it is. Any of the 7 shapes are going to produce the F Lydian tonality. How is this possible? It all comes down to the chord underneath. The F chord. F chord plus the notes of the C major scale, any of the shapes that represent the C major scale, are going to produce the F Lydian tonality. So what I'm suggesting here is, by all means, learn your shapes. All 7 shapes, and again, with whatever method of shape, like whether it's straight 3-note per string, or you've got 2 notes on 1 string, or whatever. That's not the important thing. They're all going to work just fine. You're going to produce great music with all of them. The main thing is realize that they are a 7-member family that work in conjunction to serve the same purpose, which is producing the sound of whatever mode you need. The deciding factor, though, is the chord underneath. That is actually what's producing the mode. The best analogy I have for this is picture a light, like a very bright light, like a stage light. It appears to be just like a white light, just your standard light. But let's say you have these little gels that you put in front of it, right? You got a green gel, a red gel, maybe a yellow gel. Put that red gel in front of the light. It appears to be red because the gel is red. But the fact is, it's the same white light that is going through that gel. It's what you put in front of it that produces the red light, which changes the vibe of the room and the overall mood of that atmosphere. Same thing would happen if you took the red light out and put the green gel in front of it. You're going to get a totally different mood in the room, despite the fact that the light going through it is still that same white light. So the analogy here is that the white light is the scale. It's the same no matter where you go, the same 7 notes. The gel that we put in front of our imaginary light is the chord underneath. The chord influences and dictates the overall tonality, not the shape. So if you've ever played over a chord progression, let's say in the key of C, and it's C, A minor, F, and G, and you're playing what you think is the C major scale, and it happens to fit all those chords, that's great. It does fit all those chords because each one of those chords, the notes of those chords, are found in the scale. But here's an interesting thing that might not have occurred to you. When you play over the C chord, the C major scale is going to produce the C Ionian sound. You're going to get the happy sound over that. The same group of notes over the A minor is going to produce the Aeolian sound. It's the same notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or C, D, E, F, G, A, B, But over this chord, over this gel that we're putting in front of the light, you're going to get a different mood. You're going to get what is often considered the natural minor scale, or Aeolian, which is the mode name. It's happening because the chord is changing. What you don't need to do, and what you might be doing already, is rocketing halfway down the fretboard to get to what has been called the Aeolian position. You don't need to do that. If you're up here, if you're using shape 1 up here, or 2 or 3 or whatever, and you know the A minor chord is coming, and you might be thinking, I need to get to the Aeolian shape to produce the Aeolian sound. You don't. You don't have to move anywhere the entire time. The chord changes are producing the mode changes. So in our imaginary chord progression, the same group of notes now sounds minor, Lydian, Mixolydian, and major again. And obviously I'm substituting actual chords with bass notes and got lucky that time. But you could probably hear the mood change every time I switched to a different bass note, which implied a different chord. But you'll notice that I basically played the same scale fragment the entire time. And the mood totally changed whenever the new bass note or the new chord was implied. So the bottom line here, the takeaway for this, is learn your 7 shapes and get used to the idea that none of them are any mode in particular. They're all the modes. So by learning how to connect these as a family that moves around, you're going to be able to produce the sound of any mode you want anywhere on the fretboard, and you're not going to be obligated to dart to a specific one to produce a mode. They are all going to give you that sound. So hopefully this gives you a little perspective, a little different perspective than what you may have been exposed to currently. And I know I'm just opening Pandora's box here. There are going to be so many questions that might spring from this, but this series of videos on the modes is designed to tackle them all one at a time. So I'm going to do probably quite a few of these, and they're all just meant to be thought-provoking in terms of what you think the modes are, and maybe we can get to a point where we actually do understand these better than we have. So thanks for checking it out.